Murphy, put down that hors d'oeuvre. It's time for the main course. Back to class, lad. Nothing to see here. All right now, boy. We've got to rub some garlic on you before the next full moon. Don't feel bad for losing. I was wrestling wolves back when you were your mother's teat.
What's up, guys? This is Matt from Warrior Republic, and you are watching the Warrior Within podcast, where we talk to famous MMA fighters, up-and-coming fighters, competitive grapplers, and today we have Nick, the groundskeeper, Willey. How you doing, man?
How's it going? I'm doing great, man. Pleasure to talk to you guys.
Well, it's been a little bit, and since I last saw you, you've gotten 2 belts under you. You've got a fight to win belt, and then you got your black belt.
Yeah. It's even during all this Corona stuff, kind of got a little surge going there towards the end of 2020. It was nice, man.
And how long were you a brown belt? And going into a black belt, it must feel like a big rite of passage for you, no?
Oh man, it didn't feel like a year and a half. It seemed like not too long ago I was a purple belt with no stripes, and before I knew it, I was like, man, I'm not even sure if I can step into this brown belt. And now here I am, a black belt. It's been I remember returning to Jiu Jitsu. We only had like seven kids or 7 adults, and those were our big classes. Just to be a part of watching the gym grow. And now our small classes are 15. And it's just, that's meant more to me than any of the belts. And at the same time, it seems like the team is a big part of why I got either one of them. You know what I mean? So it's been incredible.
And for viewers who don't know, you're talking about Rev, right? You're Rev Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. So back when I started, it was Team Defiant. We were mostly trying to do our MMA thing. We had Shannon and we had Damien, a few people, on a regional, back when Cage Wars was a thing,
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, XFE, you know what I mean? Shout out to Dave Feldman. He always gave me a straight shot, man. And I felt like I helped pave the way for our MMA team. And now I stepped away, I started having babies and stuff. So I stepped away to be a dad.
Yeah.
No.
So it's really unique because you're someone who doesn't just compete in jiu-jitsu. You know how it is to do like MMA. What do you think's the major difference between, like, especially when you're trying to do takedowns? You're dealing with strikes. Can you kind of tell our viewers a little bit about that?
Well, I'll tell you the biggest difference after doing MMA, like competitive jiu-jitsu, the nerves aren't the same. I feel much more control with the outcome as far as my health. You can always just tap. Striking and takedowns are totally different. I prefer to end in, pick my takedowns for where I end in jiu-jitsu, where a lot of times in MMA, my striking was setting up my takedowns. I remember training for MMA and my jiu-jitsu. I didn't take my jiu-jitsu as, not to say not as serious, but man, you're doing MMA, you got to train so many different disciplines. You can never really devote yourself to one of them and give it the same love as if it was your only child. You know what I mean? So that's kind of been, I knew ever since I dabbled in jiu-jitsu, like after MMA for me, this is where it's at. This is where it's at. I want to love this because I do love this, but you can't give it the same love. And now to be able to do that, and I don't know, I feel like I can grow old well in jiu-jitsu, versus MMA.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, you don't even know, depending on what opponent, what stuff you're actually like, what style you're studying the most is the best for the situation. And, it goes to show you are kind of right. If you just stayed and you're older and you're in your 40s and you're still doing MMA, you might get concussions. You might kind of not be enjoying your life as much. So I agree with you. Jiu-jitsu is a more peaceful path.
Yeah, it's I don't know, for the competitor in me, it's kind of hard to give up competition. So, you know, I never really had that. I never really thought of competitive jujitsu as a thing for some reason. But then with like the growth and popularity of sub only, I met Abby, and Abby was a big time competitor. I didn't know anything about competitive jiu-jitsu. I wouldn't have even known who Gordon Ryan was if I'm being perfectly honest. Like I just wasn't. My mind was never there in the competitive jiu-jitsu scene, and just Abby's fire rubbed off on me, and she was like, "Yeah, you should try this fight to win." I'm like, that even sounds cool. I'm like, okay. So I did it, and you kind of get that same, vibe. Like you get to pick your entrance music. You get to put on whatever show you want to do. So, I kind of chose the singlet, and I don't know. It's been fun, man. It's
Yeah,
been a lot of fun.
let's talk about that. So, like, that's one of the questions I want to ask you. Like, if you first are a wrestler and you have such a wrestling heavy background, the fact that he comes out, uh, the groundskeeper over here comes out in a singlet. Like most of these competitions you'll see, most of these guys are wearing rash guards and you're rocking a singlet. So just like tell everybody about that.
It's just, I came up a wrestler, and when learning jujitsu, even with that dominant wrestling background, like you fall into so many traps just because of your wrestling behaviors. So you kind of just you get humbled, and the faster you take to the humbling, the faster you learn and grow in jujitsu. But it's just my way of paying homage to what I come from, and to have the ability to do it, it adds a level of fun to it to me, and um, wrestling always be my first love. But what do you do after high school wrestling? You do college wrestling, and then what's after college? The percentages go down of the people who are going to make it to the Olympics, and there was just nothing to fill that grappling desire in that void. And to be able to do that now, to have found that, it just felt right to me to wear the singlet.
That's awesome. I mean, it makes you stand out, and I think it brings a different vibe and energy. And then it's kind of maybe in a way like someone's expecting pure wrestling and maybe pure like bad habits coming in, and then you're showing like you're doing more than just like you're kind of doing a fusion of wrestling with jujitsu with that. So there's a lot of cool things about it. It throws an opponent off, right? And then it just you put a vibe out there.
I never assume it's going to throw them off. I don't count on that. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That's not my problem to worry about. That's theirs. So I've heard that point a few times. I kind of like it for that reason too. But it's not like I'm competitively going out there thinking I'm mind raping him or anything. Um, I don't know. I feel like I've had my best matches when I wear a singlet for some reason. Just it's almost like a little bit of pressure. You add that little. I mean, if I got the balls to go out there and rock a singlet, I don't want it just to be a moniker. You know what I mean? I want it to be taken seriously. And um, it's also in paying homage to wrestling. It's also like, hey, wrestlers can do this too. Like we don't just. It's almost like the dumb jock stereotype. Like we're not just meatheads that can bang on you. Like we can learn technique, and we can be clean, and we can sub, and we can go for the finish.
Yeah, exactly. It's dope. And, let's just be honest. There's a lot of pure jujitsu guys that just aren't athletes. And you wrestlers bring the athleticism to jujitsu when you see it. Like, I know when I'm rolling with a guy and he's got a wrestling background, there's just so much pressure I got to deal with opposed to some guy who's just going to pull guard on me or just kind of like, there's just a whole different level of that. I think it has to do with athleticism.
Oh yeah, man. Well, it's wrestling definitely favors athleticism. So, I mean, every I feel like it's not the majority where you find the long, lanky guy that's just super successful in wrestling. It's definitely favoring athleticism more. So I actually think I'm seeing quite the influx of wrestlers doing competitive jiu-jitsu. You know, we've had our share of guys coming in, and I just, especially like up in Pittsburgh, like just they're starting to just convert wrestlers and start dragging wrestlers in the jiu-jitsu room, you know. And I think it's because of what I said. Like, we not everybody's gonna make the Olympic team or start varsity for your local college team. So like these guys still have that competitive void that's not being fulfilled. And you know, we're getting guys in their 20s. I'm in my 30s and I'm still like desiring competition. So I can only imagine like not like so it's almost my duty to show them the way. Like this is we can do this at a high level, you know, even if and competitive jujitsu in my like the popularity is still really new. It's still really young. So if you want to compete, now's the time before it, you know, you've seen what's happened in MMA. Um, it wasn't too long ago where Ronda Rousey was the jam, and now she can't hold a candlestick, you know, to like it just the the depth and the experience is finally catching up, you know, and it's jujitsu's not far behind. I can't imagine.
Yeah, in the public eye, you're right. It's just so new. It's so new. I mean, it's becoming, you see on UFC Fight Pass, and then you got the combat jujitsu. I mean, you're right. You know, I almost say there's probably going to be an influx, and who knows how popular competitive grappling might be. I think in the future, like the near future, or maybe in a couple years, 5 years tops, I think you can make a living off of it. It's going to be a very cool thing.
Yeah, man, and it feels like it's starting to branch off. I'm not going to say one style of jujitsu is more popular than the other, but nogi was kind of like the hush hush, you know. It wasn't, you know, as popular or as common as your typical gi grappling, and now it's becoming its own thing. So as they both gain in popularity, or you know, you almost have to pick sides if you want to do it more serious, you know, to dabble in both. And it's just been incredible to watch. I can't.
Well, even the submission only, you know, like the sport's growing so fast that like they're like, all right, people that come in the sport and they don't really like the positioning. Maybe it's like even gi, right? You're holding on to gi competitions a lot. A lot of people don't want to see that as much. The no gi is popping out beautifully because there's more action. And then what do you do to sell it more? You have submission only. So yeah, this rule set and the way it's growing, I can just tell, man. Like honestly, who knows, guys like you, pioneers staying in there, you know, you could probably be one of the first guys to actually be like, yep, I'm comfortably making a living off of this too.
Yeah, yeah. It's been fun to actually make a little bit of money. I mean, it's never like a huge amount, but it's something. It's definitely more than paying money, you know, like everyone has to do for IBJJ. You know, you got to pay all kinds of money just to register. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoy a good gi match. Like gi matches aren't necessarily boring, but
Right.
in some ways, playing the point system can make it boring. No one says that you have to, but I think just the nature of the grips, it definitely slows the game down. And it's in that way, to be masterful in that style of jujitsu is so different than being masterful in no gi. So it makes sense, I think, competitively to choose one path, whichever one appeals to you. But I still train both, you know. But when competitions closing or coming up, my classes and my focuses are more on one side of the fence. You know, I might make my one or two no gi or gi classes a week, you know, or in 5, 6 sessions will be no gi. But for me, for the thing that I want to do, I think training specifically no gi, you know, I love rocking the singlet for fight to win. Because I mean, I've done fight to win in the gi too. I don't, I say all jujitsu is good jujitsu. You know what I mean? I don't care which one you pick. they're both going to help you. And if you could, I'd say train both. But for the competitor and me, all the classes I teach are no gi. So sometimes I'll teach a gi class, step in for somebody, and it's fun to just have that in your back pocket. It's like jiu-jitsu is almost like horseplay for adults. So like to have a little variation here and there, it's fun, man. It's allowed me to stay young, and it's something I love to do, to watch the program grow. It's been incredible. We've got 2 locations. Eventually, I feel like I'll probably open my own, but there's no rush because I just love doing it. It wasn't too long ago. I was only making like 1 class every month, or every other week, and to now be running a kids program, to having a kids program with like 25 kids in it. Like I said, when some nights our classes, I'm only teaching three adults a week, and now, I'm teaching legs classes, and it's been incredible, man. It's kept me engaged, and now my own kids are in my kids program. Dude, things are just,
It's
and
cool, man.
give it all to jiu-jitsu, man.
I think that's a good point. Like, I guess it depends what kind of person, what you're doing. But yeah, if you're doing MMA, yeah, you might be doing no gi more. It makes sense for that. But am I right or wrong from what I hear? Because, I'm nowhere ranked as much as you, but it's true from a lot of experienced guys. I hear if you want to get really, really good at jujitsu and you're doing no gi, the only other way you get better feel and better flow is to learn the gi as well.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'll ever know exactly which one helps me with what and where, but I definitely feel like there's no way that they can't help one another. To me, that would just be, I don't know, it'd be silly to think the opposite, because I mean, obviously they rub off on each other. You almost build that appreciation for your gi grips. And I don't know, to pick a side from a philosophical standpoint, I don't think it really makes sense, but if you just want to focus on something as a career, I feel like no gi is just as applicable as gi in the street in a self-defense perspective. When teaching jujitsu, I like to try to keep in mind that we're not just doing this for sport. Like, the sport heightens the fun and the competitiveness of jiu-jitsu, but let's keep in mind that this is still supposed to be an art that is meant for self-defense. Like, it builds its name off of probably being the most valuable in a self-defense situation. If you were going to choose a martial art, if not like a striking martial art, then you would probably choose a grappling martial art. And just seeing so many different variety of people do jujitsu and have success with it, whether it be age, body type, not everybody is going to step into a striking class and be able to do what they would really like to do. But jujitsu, I've seen it allow, older, out of shape individuals still have a respectable sense of being able to defend themselves. So, like, keep in mind that, right here, we might be doing this in the classroom, but this might not be the best thing for you to do in a self-defense situation.
Wow, that's a really great point. And if you think of kickboxing and all the striking arts, you got to be in pretty good shape. Even just boxing, I mean, you could probably have a gut and still punch, but it's a great point you made that to be proficient in those arts, you have to have a certain level of shape. And not that you're not in shape with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but like you said, older, weaker, disadvantaged people can take someone who's a really good striker, maybe in a street fight, and they need to defend themselves, and boom, all that advantage is neutralized when you're on the ground, because like the saying goes, you're the same size when you're on the ground.
Yeah, like we were talking about earlier, wrestling favors the athletes. So how many older or out of shape people are going to come in to a wrestling room and take a wrestling class. You're probably not. But maybe you walk in a jiu-jitsu academy where our approach is different. We teach your teacher is as good as your ability to teach it to everyone. A martial art should be able to do that, and it should convert in that way, in some way, shape, or form. And some people walk in your door with no athletic background whatsoever, but they want to be able to defend themselves, and to find that beauty in this art as well. It's been nuts. You've been in your share of gyms. You've seen the disparity between the guy that weighs 350 pounds, but he wants to come in and lose some weight. But you know what? Oh yeah, he also wants to learn how to defend himself. And then you've got your best friend's grandmother signed up because you're a cool little kid, that she's known since this yay high, and she's over in the corner with her blue belt, triangle and fools. And it's incredible from that perspective. And I don't know. I'm not sure if this is just supposed to be about my love for jujitsu, but I feel like that's what it's turning into.
It's just a love for all martial arts, this podcast. But yeah, we're definitely focusing on jiu-jitsu and wrestling because you're here. But all that was beautiful, man. I had something else I was going to throw in there, but I kind of forgot. Oh, I remember. You know, let's go right when you're talking about wrestling and there's not a lot of avenues, right? You're like, hey, I did college wrestling and or whatever, and I'm gonna switch. It's like the Olympics for me or MMA, guys switch to that. I think a lot of that feeling comes from people that understand that wrestling really was it was a full sport with submissions at one point 1,000 years ago. That's why catch wrestling is really interesting to me too, because it's basically wrestling, understanding that fact, and then throwing submissions in there. So I really think that, people look at wrestlers and they think that they're not really grapplers. They go, oh, they're just wrestlers. And I can tell you more than anything, people that make a lot of creative jujitsu moves, I know some top coaches that tell me they watch wrestling matches to look what they're doing, and then they make a submission out of it. So, in my opinion, that's probably why guys like you and everyone else they want to go into jujitsu more, because it really is a sport where it needs to be a full it really is a sport where it's hungry for more. There were submissions, there were other things that were allowed.
Yeah, wrestling definitely feels a lot more linear. So like the chances to be creative aren't as abundant as in jujitsu. So I feel like that's kind of what you're saying. Like to watch and now all the different styles of jujitsu. You have wrestlers translating to jujitsu. You have I don't know as many catch wrestlers, but I imagine if I were a catch wrestler, I'd be seeing some growth in the popularity of the sport. I mean, I don't hear a ton about it, but I do follow a few catch wrestling forums. You know what I mean? So I've always wanted to do one of those competitions, or even just take one of those classes to see the disparity in the approach to grappling. Um, just imagine what the sport of grappling is going to be and the way it's going to be taught in the next 10 years. Just watching the evolution of it, the way it's been taught to me over the past 10 years, whether it's circumstance or just my coach or, the different styles that only I've been exposed to. Now that wrestlers are finding out and that this is kind of a thing, this is an avenue, there's going to be almost a more wrestling. I don't know. I just imagine there's going to be a more wrestling feel to jujitsu in the next few years, and just watching things melt together and mold into whatever jujitsu is going to become in the future is, I don't know. It makes me excited.
Dude, absolutely. I even hear guys that are, ADCC champions or people that, are high level guys, and they all said as pure jujitsu guys, they had to study up on their wrestling, and that's why I like kind of watching you, man, because you're not, even though it's fine, you're sitting guard or you're pulling guard or doing these things. It's fucking exciting to see a guy just stand up and just, do those kind of pressure and rush. So
I think that's why Fight to Win puts a little emphasis on it too. I don't know if if everybody's hip to their new pointing system, but I got my chance to actually ref a few of the events while
Oh,
they were
cool.
here. Yeah, that was pretty neat, man. That was a pretty neat experience. To see all of that up close and personal and be a part of it. But part of that is also being a judge. I didn't really realize how much nuance there was to being a referee, But it was a pretty neat experience. But their pointing system is pretty much basically slam them and go for the submission. So you have like either a major or a minor for a submission attempt. Either it was a legit submission attempt or it was minor, and then slams. Like that's how you reward points when you're sitting in the corner judging. So
Wow. That's the way it should be. I love that.
yeah, so for all the coaches that do Fight to Win, I almost sitting on the sidelines in between listening to the coaches coach their guys. They're coaching them in a pure jiu-jitsu sense, like go for the pass, go for hit them with the De La Hiva, and I almost feel like it's my duty, like, coach, that's not going to win him the match. Like, and to actually be forced to watch jiu-jitsu in that prism is kind of interesting as well, because I'm used to watching jiu-jitsu and appreciating all the aspects of it, passing the guard, retaining the guard, and all of that. So to kind of have to look at it differently when I'm judging, where guard passing might be the fine line that splits, a close match more than anything versus actually deciding the match. I could just pick you up and slam you 3 times, and by the rule set, I just won the match. So yeah, it does favor the takedown. And in sport jiu-jitsu, I think a lot of our YouTube students, they'll see sport jiu-jitsu and you see a lot of guard pulling. And I used to kind of joke about guard pulling tongue in cheek a little bit, just to favor my style of teaching jiu-jitsu. But I think if we kind of take it back to a pure self-defense standpoint, like I was talking about, you got to know how to take it to the ground. I got it from John Danaher, but when I heard it, it just made sense. And I kind of add a little wrestling twist to it, like when I teach it to my kids in the kids class, there's 4 parts of jiu-jitsu. And the first one is you got to take it to the ground. It doesn't say pull guard. You're not going to run up on some fool in the street that's hurting your loved one and pull guard. You got to be able to take it to the ground, because jiu-jitsu is ground fighting. And once we get there, then we do our jiu-jitsu, and that's how we train it. But I just thought that was a beautiful way to approach it, and it just kind of favors my approach to jiu-jitsu anyway. You got to be able to take it to the ground, man.
Fucking 100%. Like, it's amazing how many jiu-jitsu guys you'll see. You'll see even in MMA matches, and they're good when they get on the ground, but they can't get the guy there. It's almost nullifying all what you know if you can't get it to the ground. I think it's a beautiful point. And with all these wrestlers, like we're seeing the evolution, I think less and less of that'll be seen. But as the state of today of jiu-jitsu, yeah, there's so many people doing that. And you're right. You can't gonna go and pull guard and say you're on gravel or you're on the street. That dude's gonna slam you, or the environment's gonna dictate that those abilities, you can't use that. But a single leg, a double leg, or just trying to like get somebody to the ground, dude, you can do that anywhere. Do that in the street, on a mat, near a pool, fucking anywhere.
I think what the deterrent is that takedowns are only like 25% of jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? So if you've been training jiu-jitsu all your life, then maybe you should have a different approach to wrestling. You should know enough jiu-jitsu by now. But I don't know, some people are just resistant to new things, Look how long no gi was kind of shunned before it just kind of kicked the door in. All the old heads wanted to just stick to gi. And, now with the change in the rule set at IBJJ, all the guys that have been doing IBJJ no gi all these years, not training leg locks, are about to be in quite a bit of a panic, I'd suggest, so.
Mm-hmm.
And we come back to that evolution of jiu-jitsu all over again.
Right, like you just said, there's a bunch of people who just were. I mean, there was for years that you're black belt, but you don't really need. There were guys who were black belts. They don't do leg locks, and then now everybody's doing leg locks. If you don't know leg locks, like there's a great quote. You're basically a white belt from the waist down. You only know your jujitsu from the
Oh yeah.
waist up.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's like I took a leg lock seminar with Zach Green and kind of just fell in love with leg locks. Um, and it made me want to learn more. And it was kind of hard to learn more unless I could travel a lot, and I really didn't have that ability. So, and I kind of just I started teaching myself, and I kind of started using my classes. But I'm not going to lie, I was scared to. I was scared to teach them in class. Just I don't want people getting hurt
Right,
off
right.
of something I barely know, but at the same time, I feel like I know enough jujitsu to be able to study it, play with it, and kind of regurgitate it. So I had to find my own way to learn leg locks and kind of just use the gym as my personal little laboratory to experiment and just really build because. Dude, I mean, most classes are what? White, green, blue belts. You might have a little purple, brown sprinkled in there, on any given night. But you're teaching leg locks to a lot of students that are just trying to still getting the feel for jujitsu. So I approached it with a lot of caution when teaching it. We couldn't even finish. Like, let's just learn the simple basics. But yeah, man, you got to learn. And once I felt the power, if you will, like I was like, yeah, you can't not know this. And if I can't find someone to teach me this, then I've got to pull it out of somewhere. Um, I might be like a green belt in leg locks, maybe approaching my blue, but you know, um, still. And then it kind of comes back to just being able to fall in love with jujitsu all over again because it's almost a game within the game. And you hear them say it all the time, jujitsu never ends. And if hopefully I don't, I'm going to end before jujitsu does. So I can just love this thing as long as my body will put up with it.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, dude. Um, Another thing I wanted to ask you was like, let's just get right to. I wanted to transition with the reffing, but you're a fight to win champion now. That is definitely new. So you got to tell me about that experience.
Well, I kind of seized the moment a little bit and just had a good opportunity. And it really wasn't my best showing. The guy didn't want to engage. I wanted to engage. It wasn't really the action packed kind of win that I wanted, but I mean, it doesn't make me feel any less excited about the opportunity to win one of those, man. And I knew I knew my promotion to black belt was coming up, and it was my last shot to win a belt for a while. Even though I was riding like a quite an undefeated streak there. Um, I'm certainly not going to jump to the top of the black belt rankings once I get promoted. So, Seth Daniels told me I'd get a title shot if I flew down to Dallas, and I went. I came, I saw, I conquered, man. It wasn't the way I wanted to win. You'd always like to finish a match and win that way, but I also wore the bikini singlet too, man. So I mean, I couldn't lose, dude. I couldn't lose,
Put it all out there, like, yeah.
Oh man, if I was going to fly down to Dallas for a title shot, and be on Flow Grappling, I got to wear the bikini singlet. Man.
What's that boy wearing there? He's wrestling. He's got a bikini on. The hell is this shit?
Oh man, I went back and watched it because I don't get to watch what the commentators say when I'm doing it. So like to go back on Flow Grappling and watch it with the commentating, it was yeah, they had their day with me, man.
I think it's a dope move. It's fucking ballsy and it's good attention. But I just want to, I'm sure people saw the other thing and hear me saying it, but like it just, you go up, we went after and fucking got it. You got the opportunity and that's life. You got that fucking opportunity and you're like, I want this. And you went there and you fucking did it. So man, I'm proud. That's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, it's on to try and get that next one. You know, uh, I know ADCC is not too far around the corner. I know we're waiting for them to reschedule, but I've got my sights set on. They're doing it in my backyard. Trials are right in New Jersey. So like, why not go and test your metal and see what you really got going on?
Fuck, dude, you serious? I didn't even know it was in New Jersey. Oh man, we're definitely filming that.
Yeah, dude. I mean, where's the farthest place in New Jersey it could be from me? So I'm going, dude. I'm going. I'm there.
Wow. I'll tell you what, too. Like, not that many people know. Danaher did go to Puerto Rico and all of them. One of the best kept secrets, especially in New Jersey. You want to get your leg lock up, go to Dan Fisher here and learn from him. He's someone that I study with, and he's basically a guy that fused catch wrestling with jujitsu. But he's a student off of Steve Maxwell, Maxercise back in. I mean, it's right in your
Yeah.
state, and so he basically just evolved his own jujitsu. But it's actually he's one of the first guys. He actually did it right around basically when Dean Lister started thinking of leg locks, and he developed it for MMA. So all his stuff is keep in mind with strikes and all that stuff.
Didn't you do a video with him?
Yes, I did a few videos with him.
Yeah, I knew that sounded familiar.
Oh man, I'm telling you, you should. He doesn't do De La Riva stuff. Like everything else with leg locks, he does is really creative. I suggest like before ADCC, go like there's dudes that are black belts that come to him. He'll show them a move that they've never seen in their life, and they'll use it in competitions and win.
Oh yeah, I'm all about that life, man. For real.
I mean, he's a bit older guy now. He's a big guy to grapple with, but I'm telling you, like, he's still very skillful. Yeah, come down. Come down. Maybe you go a Crow's gym for like a week, and then come 2 days a week because he's only there 2 days. So he used to be a guy that trained a bunch of UFC fighters, and Rhino was a big gym around here. It was like on the East Coast. It really set up MMA, and he was one of the top coaches from the Pitts Pen, and then with Rob Garino for Rhino. And then about 2012, 13, he's just now this quiet little guy in a gym in a karate studio. And shout out to Evolution Martial Arts, very, very awesome karate, Kempo. And he's just an MMA class guy. And I went in there and I'm like, I guess I'm just going to learn jujitsu. And this guy is a engineer. So he's teaching you through his ideas of pulleys and fulcrums how to make darces and other stuff tighter and more deadly. Like, I'm not even kidding you. There's Frankie Edgar will go. I went to a seminar and there was a move he was teaching that Dan showed him from teaching with Frankie years ago. And it's a CSAR armbar. So it's all this stuff he took from engineering because he's a structural engineer, looks at the human body and then puts it into jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible, man. To have that advantage in this sport is pretty unreal. You see what Danaher has like the philosophy kind of view on jiu-jitsu, and I think Lachlan is don't quote me on his specialty, but I know it has to deal with the anatomy of the body. So to view jiu-jitsu and to have an engineering perspective, that's got to be nuts, man.
Oh, it's wild. We even did a documentary. If you go watch a while back, we did a whole doc on him because I was like, how the hell is this guy around here? Nobody understands who the hell he is. And yeah,
good point.
It was I just lost my train of thought on exactly. Yeah, we did the doc and you just watch it. He even did something with Fedor. Like he went to a Fedor seminar and he mounted Fedor when he told him like, I'm in side control. This is a move to get you out of side control to get you back into guard. And he mounted the dude. And like, so he's like a soup. Like some people like Danaher too, they just have a beautiful mind for the game. And that's exactly what this guy has. So yeah, dude, just come down and you'll see it. And it's basically, it's not catch wrestling and it's not jujitsu, but it is jujitsu. But then it's like not exactly. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, that's that sounds like right up my alley, dude.
Definitely. And jujitsu, as you know, it's an arms race. So, it's like the Cold War shit. It's like, what leg locks do you got? Oh, what special submission do you have?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Try to hit you with that thing you ain't seen yet.
Exactly. Fuck yeah, dude.
Styles makes fights kind of thing. Yeah, no, definitely.
And a big thing for me when I started out with jiu-jitsu, just being like kind of a high school wrestler, like I was in love with the 10 planet system, or really jiu-jitsu in general, because of the creativity. Like there's an infinite amount of fucking moves. And with striking, a punch is a punch. You know, there's only so many ways to do stuff. How many years has
Yeah, no,
jiu-jitsu been around? There's more fucking moves.
yeah, dude, it's nuts, and it almost makes you keeps reminding you that your black belt it only means so much, because this thing, it might, your knowledge might have gotten you here, but there's still much to learn, man. And it's, as long it's keeping that white belt mind state. Feel like you're always drowning, like you just need to keep learning stuff. And dude, it's nuts. If you stop learning, you're never going to be able to keep up.
And that's a great metaphor for life too, right? If you just like think you fucking know it all, or you have not a closed mind set, then that's not going to work for you in life. So that's a beautiful thing about martial arts and jujitsu. I feel is very philosophy based. Just teaches you about life, man.
Oh yeah, and it's a different level of connection, because you're doing it with your physical self, not just and it's engaging your mind. It's almost meditative in that way, because you can't think about anything else. Because if you think about something else, you're getting strangled. You might get strangled anyway, but if you think about something else, you're definitely getting strangled. So yeah, it's to have that level of connection. It almost feels annoying how much I want to talk about jujitsu, and I share jujitsu with people, but just, I don't know, to having that connection with yourself, and then to teaching it, that's another layer to jujitsu, that, to be experienced, if you will. Because not everybody teaches it, right? But if you ever teach jujitsu, you'll teach yourself what you actually know about jujitsu. Yeah, it's incredible in that way, man.
It's like a double verification, because like I even do that with boxing and striking too, but anything, you get a coach's mindset when you teach, and you're like seeing it for more depth than actually just doing the move, like whether it's a punch or a takedown. When you start teaching it, you're going, oh shit, like I didn't even realize like I do it that way, or I didn't think about how I did this particular thing. And when you articulate it to someone else, like, no, you're finding more about yourself, and you're finding more about like the way you do that art.
And even reffing jujitsu is another way. It's like it's a very unique and interesting way to experience jujitsu. And if you want to be honest, like my experience with jujitsu that I found the hardest and my most lacking is coaching jujitsu, like live matches on the fly, like dissecting what is happening at a very fast clip. Like, again, I'm going to reference Abby, but she was really good. And Anthony, they were both really good at coaching jujitsu. And until I sat in a chair and tried to like yell at my kids or yell at my fellow classmates and students what to do, like it's overwhelming, man. It's rattling to really, because a lot of times you're dealing with inexperience, or it's a lot of, I feel like in experienced jujitsu, it's easier to tell what's going on, and at a fast pace, you see the measuring, and the setups that can't be stopped, and you're not seeing a lot of that on a lower level, or really at any level down in your smaller regional tournaments. But it was just a whole nother way to experience jujitsu, and it's almost evolving the ways to experience the martial art.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's like amazing. And it's just I know what you mean. Like when you're so into grappling and jiu-jitsu, it's almost like a guy that's like into like a certain fetish or porn, and you're like, I can't just let everybody know, but it's like it feels really good. You should use this too. And it really is something that like you don't, it's not about jiu-jitsu anymore. It's the way you see life, through different eyes.
Well, it gives back to you what you give to it, and I think that's where you actually fall in love, and you can't convey that to your average person, until you see what it can do. like I said, you can have your grandmother choking fools, and like it's legitimate. It's not something, you know, doctored, and it's you're not hallucinating. It's not a mirage, you know, like she's putting that art to use, and to have something you give to, you know, your blood, your sweat, your sore muscles, your time studying, to have something like that give back to you in that way. It's something super reassuring about the decision you made to even do it.
Hell yeah. And that's so, you know, just you got to find that fucking thing that, like, whether it be any martial art, karate or jujitsu, and just, you know, have that ambition. It'll make your life just feel that much better. One more thing I wanted to, like, just ask you a little bit, and, you know, so, like, Dylan Dennis, right? I don't think this is interesting just so people don't know who you are, right? You almost had a fight, an MMA fight with Dylan Dennis. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
How
It
that?
was kind of
Go ahead. Go ahead.
no. You want to finish the question?
No. I'm fine. Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, so it was back when I was fighting for CFFC. There are a lot of hot and upcoming guys around that time. Dylan Dan, I think McGregor was like in a near the peak of his powers. So like there, it was even rumored he might be cornering him. Not that that really would matter, you know, that's just a rumor. But um, I think he was going to make his jump to Bellator right before he was going to be able to sign to Bellator. They wanted to see him fight somewhere locally, and CFFC was, you know, just putting everybody in the UFC at that point. You know, Paul Felder, um, Jimmy Rivera, Lyman Good, Jonathan Webb, like all these guys. You know, Tim Williams, all these guys were hot. Anthony Smith, you know, all of them were on the CFFC roster making jumps. So like CFFC was the hot place to be, and that's where Dylan Dennis was going to be. And yeah, I was offered the match with him, just couldn't take it due to circumstance, you know. But just to have been offered that in that moment, it was just like, man. And you know, ultimately, I chose to be a dad, man. I just chose to be a dad over pursuing my MMA career, and I just knew if I you can't be really good at both, and it was time to put up or shut up, either go into pro MMA full time, you know, whatever the sacrifice required, or, you know, given to your family. And I just, coming from where I come from, I couldn't make that choice, man. You know,
Right. It's a tough thing that people have to, like, realize when they're pursuing that. Like, it's not this, you do that and then you come home, you're watching Netflix. Like, you are putting so many hours into doing that when people are just having fun. I mean, you're basically giving up your life just to pursue that, you know, and you have to almost be selfish, and, you know, you're pushing a lot of people out of your life, your mom, your friends, your children, even you're right. You know, a lot of people don't think about that when they think of, you know, pursuing fighting.
yeah, dude, I can't count the nights that my daughter like followed me out the door as I'm going to go train, you know, crying for me to not leave. Yeah, dude, you know, and then you have a second child to do it all over again with. And I don't know, when I started, obviously I was conscious about my decision to start a family. So, you know, don't be whining and crying about it now. But, you know, I just gave myself a window. I was like, you know, when I started training MMA and I decided to compete and kind of pursue a UFC dream, you know, my dream was just to make it there. You know, like that was that. I was like, man, in a 5-year window, I should be able to at least accomplish that. Like that was my goal. You know, so my 5-year window came. My family was right here, and I wasn't quite there yet. So I just had to be honest with the goal that I set for myself, man. And you know, the rest is history at this point.
That's fucking awesome. But you gotta understand, like, that's what you do. Like, you have a higher goal. Because in your mind, if you walk into the gym and you're just like, I'll put it to you this way. If you walk into a gym and you're like, yeah, I kind of want to pursue fighting, but you're like, I want an amateur belt. Even if that's your goal, like, that's not a good mindset. Your goals always should be higher, or your ambition almost should be higher than that goal. Like, yeah, maybe your goal is to get that belt, but in your head, you should be like, no, I want to go pro. No, I want to fight like you did in UFC, because that's going to bring an intensity when you get to that peak, instead of just thinking in a mindset. See, mindset's so powerful that, yeah, I'm just going to be at this level. You're like, no, fuck that. I'm going to be at this level, and whatever happens, you can look back on and be like, you know what? I'm glad I did that, because look at the result.
Yeah, man. It was a good run, like I can't poo-poo my experience. I fought a lot of tough guys, a lot of guys that have done well. I fought Randy Brown. He had his little stint in the UFC. Like I see, like I could have at least achieved my dream had my time been a little bit longer. And that my my experience was, I'll never forget it. You know what I mean? It was awesome. It taught me a lot about myself, and to just have that and actually go after it regardless of the outcome, to have the balls to actually pursue my dream. Like that was the win for me in the end. But dude, it's a lot of work. I wasn't getting any younger, and the game's definitely getting younger. So, you know, you start worrying about your health a little bit more. I think I was like 24, 25 when I first started training. I was near 30 when I stopped doing it. So it kind of made sense for that reason. You know, if I'm not going to make it to the UFC with kind of the age gap and my ability to commit to the career in and of itself, then there really wasn't any more sense for me to continue fighting. You know, at that point, I'm just taking damage for no damn reason. So I started doing jujitsu, man. It all comes back to it. I told myself when I first tasted jujitsu, like I told you, I knew I'd come back to it, and it's loved me every bit that I loved MMA, maybe even more, because I'm not getting punched in the face all the time now. So, I mean, like, to say that you don't ever think about that as someone that decides to get punched in the face for a living, I think we're all lying to ourselves if anybody says that. So, I mean, that definitely comes to play.
Yeah, because like jujitsu is something you can do your whole life. I was thinking in my head, it was just like a little bit of a joke. It's almost like MMA is like the hot girl, but you can't sustain that relationship. You know what I mean? And jujitsu
No,
is
no,
like,
for sure.
and jujitsu is like the girl that was always there, that wants you back no matter what.
She's committed, man. She'll do anything for you as long as you do the same in return. Yeah, yeah, and everybody wants to be a badass. So everybody that thinks they're a badass is going to give their hand at MMA. Um, but I'm starting to feel the need for a little more striking in my life too, because just like you need to have a takedown to be able to do your jujitsu, probably wouldn't be a bad idea that you keep your razor blade sharp with your striking. Be able to knee somebody or elbow somebody when you need to. Um,
100%.
yeah, I'm not hitting at a comeback or anything. You know what I mean? But
No,
I'm
this is just
definitely.
part of being a full-fledged martial artist. Like you said,
Oh,
balance.
for sure, man, for sure.
So another question is, I'm gonna have to. I know I'm gonna just say it. So, would you ever grapple Dylan Dennis? I mean, screw MMA. Like, he's still grappling. You're grappling. Would you grapple him?
Oh yeah, no doubt, man, no doubt. I'm not. I mean, I'd grapple just about anybody. I mean, I don't. As long as you're not, I don't feel like you're just going to lay on me and squash me. I'll grapple anybody, any weight. Like nobody wants to just be laid on, but I do absolute. Like I do grappling industries whenever I can. It's just all experience is experience, man. Good, bad, indifferent. It's all experience. So I do all the absolute. I do all four divisions. I want all that. I want all that experience. At this point, that's what I need. Um, like I said, all jujitsu is good jujitsu. So as long as I get to compete, I'll do all the grappling industries, all the Fujis, all the, shout out to Tim with Fuji. I don't know, man. Just the jujitsu community. It's another way to experience jujitsu. The community is outstanding. Um, you know, I think MMA community is a little different, especially when you talk competitively. Like there's teams, even even competitive jujitsu. Like there are some teams that kind of take that whole team thing to another level. Like you better not even train with another association. Some people take their competitive jujitsu that serious, but I think it's a little less. Where MMA might be a little more. So. Um, I don't know, just to experience jiu-jitsu in that way, the community's been awesome. Guys I've seen competing ever since I started competing. Now, tearing up the scene. Now I get to compete with them. Like that's been pretty nuts.
Are there any people that you wanted to grapple? Like, if you any give me a couple names. Like, I don't know. Like hell, I always wanted to grapple Marcelo Garcia, Jeff Glover. Are there any people that you've ever yeah, I want that.
Yeah, man. I don't know if I don't know I don't know if I know enough about people on the grappling scene personally be like, yeah, I want that person. But um I want to go against JM Holland.
Oh,
Um, well, just he seemed to express interest. Like I said, I watch my matches, and you don't get to hear the commentary obviously when you're doing it. But I heard him mention that he'd be willing to do the match, like because he was commentating for the event, and so to hear him say that, I'm like, damn, I kind of do too. Let's make that happen. So you know, I don't like I said, I don't know enough about people and I just love competing at this point, but to really have someone on my mind, whoever's in the way of getting to my goals is who I want, like I want to win an ADCC trial. How realistic of a goal that is, I'm not sure, but it all starts with the person in front of you. So, I'm going to go try my hand and see where this thing takes me. I'm not sure what like my competitive prime is for jujitsu. I mean, I feel good. I feel like I can compete well. I'm still learning well. I'm able to commit a good amount of time to training and the sport. So I don't know. It's a competitive jujitsu has kind of refueled that fire a little bit, man. So whether it's a year, 3, maybe 5 years of really giving it a good run, I want to see where this thing goes. You know. Um, I'm grabbing up whatever competition I can, regardless of the outcome.
I think that's more natural anyway. Like, he said in the commentating, he liked what he saw grappling you. That makes sense to me. And I think that's a healthy mindset too. I mean, it's fun to be like, I want this and that guy, but it is a lot of wasted mental energy when you could just think about the next opponent.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I still approach. I've always approached sports from more of a sportsmanship kind of standpoint. So I'm not really a trash talker by nature. So like really calling someone out, but maybe having like an appreciation for someone's jujitsu. Um, I don't know. Like I said, I didn't even know much about the jujitsu scene when I first started competing. So I don't really feel like I have an idol per se. Um,
Hmm.
Dylan Royce, like I've wanted that match.
Oh,
From Precision. There was a time where I was going to compete against a guy that was kind of like similar to his stature, and he was like one of the headliners. I think he went against JT Torres on my first fight to win, and I like the way they kind of do that. They bring in like a big headliner and put him against a local headliner. You know what I mean? To me, that's kind of cool. It's almost like giving to your city a little bit.
yeah, I
Give
like that.
so to see that, like I was like, yeah. I never really thought I'd have the opportunity to go against him, but now like he's being offered to me in fight to wins, and we just haven't got the match yet. But I mean, he's a stud, dude. He's built like a damn tank, and that's kind of fits my style. I don't know if it in a good way or a bad way, but I know we're similar. So yeah, I think that would be a good competitive stepping stone.
Yeah, man, definitely. That's awesome. I never even knew that until so now. That's in my mind. I think I want to see that. That's cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't want any easy matches. I can't imagine that at black belt there's an easy match. So, I mean, that was kind of come back to that whole fight to win that brown belt title. That was going to be my last chance at that. So now, now you're with the big boys, man. There's no hiding,
Right.
So yeah, man, it's a whole new ball game now, man, for competitive jiu-jitsu now that I'm a black belt. Like it's a whole new fulfilling, backing up that other the other inches on your ass that your black belt doesn't cover. You know what I mean?
That's right. It's right. Only covers 2 inches of your ass. I love that. Yeah. So the other thing I was going to ask you, I just lost train of thought a little bit. Give me a sec. It does happen. It does happen.
Well, I tend to ramble, so I mean,
You're rambling good. I ramble too. It's all good, man. What was it? It's okay. This isn't live, so I'm allowed to do this.
was there anything about Dylan?
No. We're good on that.
All right.
I got it. Yeah, so like, since you've done like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you've done MMA, would you ever, and I've asked you this before, but your mindset's a little bit different now since you're purely looking at Jiu-Jitsu. Do you ever see yourself doing CJJ with combat Jiu-Jitsu?
I've thought about it, like, but I'm trying to find the appeal. Like, and maybe it comes from a lack of understanding the rule set, because I'm not sure I really do understand the rule set. Like, are we just like open hand smacking each other? Are we like, do we, you know what I mean? Like, do I get a backhand you? Can I go, like, I don't know. Am I thrusting my palm in your face? I don't know. What are the rules? Do you know the rule set?
I know them vaguely, but I think I know them slightly better than you with that. So what my understanding is, it's like kind of how early Pancrase was. If you look at Boss Rutan, a lot of those guys, they were palm striking. It's almost like you slap somebody, but they're slapping with the fingers. And so this sport's so early that, like you said, the rules are you can smack with your palm. You can go total palm strike. So a lot of guys don't do that, whether they're weird committing that or they just feel like they've punched and it's not a punch, or they slap but they've never palm striked. So if you use I mean, even traditional martial arts, just bone right here, you can totally fuck people up. So you're using it to kind of stop submissions. The weird thing in the rule set is, to me, is that they don't really allow it. Like, there's a whole regular jiu-jitsu qualification part from what I see with Eddie Bravo. And then later, when it's close to the semifinals and finals, they allow the palm strike. So it's weird. The competition, at least right now at the moment, I'm not seeing from the inception that they're allowing that. But as the competition like gets higher level, then they fully go into just the palm strikes. But my point is that I don't think they're utilizing the palm strikes totally yet. It's so early on. That's why a guy like you who understands striking MMA would probably have super advantage to somebody who's just doing jiu-jitsu,
Yeah. I feel like I've heard of combat jiu-jitsu a little bit. I feel like I would need to kind of, I guess, feel what it's like to, you don't really know what you're missing until you have it, I guess, I don't know. I give it, my curiosity alone would probably make me give it a whirl. But where do you do that sort of thing? Where do you go train that sort of thing? You know what I mean?
Right.
If it's young, I don't even know where I would go do it unless I go train with people that I'm probably going to be competing against. And I don't know. Maybe if I was a little clearer on the rule set, I could kind of do my own mock and maybe just watch a few matches. I don't know. It's never really grabbed my curiosity that way, but would be an interesting way to experience jiu-jitsu.
Definitely. And it's just Eddie Bravo doing it. Like, it's not like it's very broad. Like, there's only, like EBI is, there's only one guy doing EBI. He thought of combat jiu-jitsu. There's only one guy doing that. So it'd be great if they did it in other places. But as it stands, like, you would have to probably fly out to California or like some state that they're doing it in. And honestly, once you've done the things that you want to do, I would make it as a last stop for jiu-jitsu, try it out.
Yeah, why not? I mean, give Eddie a Bravo a call for me. Tell him I'm interested.
Eddie Bravo, you listen to this shit, I'm gonna hit you up.
No, man. I don't know. I kind of like flying out, and it kind of makes you feel special. Feels like you're I don't know. I've never really limited myself to where I'm willing to travel for jujitsu. That's for sure. You know, when finishers did lockdown, during the whole COVID lockdown thing, I didn't have my kids. I was willing to go travel to do that. I'm willing to fly to Dallas. I'm as long as I can afford it. I'm about that life.
Sometimes
I
it's just
don't.
fun, right?
Yeah, dude. It makes it fun. Especially if you can have a little experience when you go out there. And I always like to visit other gyms when I go places. My ex-wife used to hate that. We're planning a damn vacation, and I'm looking for which gym I'm going to stop at and which day.
That's awesome.
Um, but no, I love doing that. And California is kind of like the epicenter for, the top jujitsu practitioners, in the country. You go out to San Diego, you got Dean Lister's out there, I think. You got Atos out there. MMA is an alpha male out there. There's a plethora of gyms out that way. Um, so yeah, I'd go out to California. I'd give that a try. I like doing new things.
Dope, man. I can't wait to see you compete next. So what is my final question to you, man, is just like what's next for you? Is there any competitions or anything forward that you're doing recently or what's next for the groundskeeper?
Oh man. Well, I saw Finishers has this invite only. It's called their F13 Absolute. So hopefully I get invited. Just COVID's kind of got things a little twisted right now. They said that I think somewhere in March or April they're rescheduling the ADCC trials, but it's also kind of pending on how this whole thing shakes out. So um, your best bet is whatever competition pops up next. I've got my eyes on it. I'm looking to make my way over there. Whether it's Fight to Win back in Philly in January, whatever, man. If I'm there, or if I can be there, I'm there.
You got a zip code, Nick Willey will be there. I got one last question though, my friend. I want to know the whole thing with the groundskeeper name. Can you just tell the folks like, how you came up with that? Because I think it's a badass name for grappling.
Well, my last name's Willey, and longtime Simpson fan. Everybody kind of made fun of me, the groundskeeper. And then I just thought, first I was kind of resistant to it, and I was just like, man, that's kind of a super sick name for grappling. Like you keep it on the ground. You're the groundskeeper Willey. He's a redheaded janitor, but so what? He's pretty badass at grappling. And you always see those the episodes where he beats the shit out of the wolf. You know what I mean? He rips his shirt off and he's wrestling the wolf, and then the wolf's all beat up. And oh yeah, I'll rock with it, man.
He's all jacked. I love it.
Yeah,
The Scottish accent.
if only I was Scottish and came out in a kilt, right?
Dude, that's a great idea. Your next singlet one, just do plaid and do your hair like the red and just come out like that.
Yeah, I'm with it. I think I got to work my confidence up to that. The bikini singlet had me a little hype, man. But dude, going with the Scottish kilt and dyeing my hair red, that's whole next level.
Yeah, haggis to the crowd.
Single leg and haggis, just giving people.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
It was an absolute pleasure, man, to have you on the show. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Seth Daniels would allow it, so
there you go.
He don't care, man. He's a G like that.
So, man, Nick, it was a pleasure, man, to have you and talk to you just about martial arts, life, and jiu-jitsu. Guys, if you want to follow, it's the groundskeeper is it BJJ? Just so your IG, so people know we're following.
It's at Groundskeeper BJJ.
Groundskeeper BJJ, and you'll see him compete. If you guys like his style, I think his style is awesome. Check Nick Willey out. All right, so my friend, it was awesome talking to you, man. Until the next time, peace.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.